Hello again, you sick, twisted weather freaks, and welcome to another fun filled, action packed, and intellectually stimulating edition of This Week in Weather. I'm your host and meteorologist DT from Weather Risk, your commander of chaos, your colonel of confusion, your captain of catastrophe. Let's talk about this week in weather. And obviously, the big thing is what's going to happen here at the end of March and going in, and in February going into March. So we'll get into all that. A lot to talk about here. So let's get right to it. First, here's our background. You know, this is the jet stream pattern for most of January, all of January, February, and even a good portion of December, except for Christmas, the last week of December. So really, for well, I don't know, 60 out of the last 75 days, or maybe 75 out of the last 90 days, has featured these two particular jet stream patterns here. You can see the one on the left. This is the one from January 18th to 31, a 10-day, 12-day period here. The mean trough in the Rockies and the southwestern states, the big ridge in the Gulf of Alaska, the eastern Pacific, and the ridge on the east coast, southeastern states. And the image on the right, this is mid-February, February 14, 15, same sort of pattern. And we can see the amazing warmth we've had. This is a very typical La Nina pattern. It's one of the reasons why you don't get big snowstorms on the East Coast during La Ninas. So you can see that for the past 75 days, we've had a deep long wave trough in the western CONUS, continental United States. Southwest Canada that's brought cold and heavy temperatures to the western CONUS, and we all know about the huge snows they've had there, and even, like I mentioned on the Facebook page, the blizzard warnings watch is going up now for the mountains outside of Los Angeles and Southern California. This is called the negative PNA, Pacific North America pattern. That's what it stands for. And it means a strong trough on the west coast and an equally strong ridge on the east coast. And these can last for a very long time. And of course, when you have a big ridge here on the east coast, southeastern states, you can't get nor'easters. And if you look at the weather maps, we've only had one coastal storm of any significance back in mid-February. And that was mostly rain, some snow in the mountains, but not a big deal. So this is a map here as of February 22nd. You can see the trough right here. Huge ridge again in the eastern Pacific, and that corresponds to this trough, and that corresponds to this ridge. So ridge, trough, ridge, ridge, trough, ridge. It's really quite basic. And there's your polar vortex. So in order to get the pattern to change, we've got to get this trough to leave. You see this? This is we have to leave. It has to change. And so far it's not. So this is the upper air map for today, actually, for the tomorrow, actually, February 24. And you can see there's our enormous ridge with the record warm temperatures, the polar vortex. See how the vortex has dropped southward? It's trying to suppress the top of the ridge, but it's not doing a very good job. And the reason why is because this trough is so persistent, so deep. Because this is so strong, this is so strong. And as a result, the polar vortex cannot suppress it. So it stays very warm in Maryland, Virginia, and southern Ohio, and Kansas, and Arkansas, Oklahoma. But to the north, we have a very tight front right across here, and New England and the Great Lakes are much, much colder. And then we have closed up below. See the white here? That's our next system coming out. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So this was the map here from yesterday. And you can see the big snowstorm that's brought the heavy snow into the upper Midwest, across the Great Lakes, and into northern New England. Let me show you here what I mean. Well, first we'll take a look at these snow maps here. This is New England. You can see the significant snow in all this area here. Again, it's not a huge snow, but it was something. A lot of icing in interior Connecticut and central and southern Massachusetts, central New York State. But the big, decent snow, again, dark blue is 4 to 6 inches. The yellows is 6 to 8 inches. Not huge. And then this was the Minnesota and the Midwest snow from the other day. You can see the dark red here in Minneapolis, St. Paul. That's 18 to 24 in some of these spots. You can see that. And a lot of 12 to 18 inches in all this area here. And then, of course, in this kind of weather pattern, with this kind of upper air pattern here, you can expect to see enormously warm temperatures, and we did. This is the max temperatures today in the mid-Atlantic here on February 23rd, 80 degrees in Richmond, 82 in Raleigh, 77, 70 in DC. Meanwhile, to the north, you can see much, much colder temperatures. Ohio was in the mid-70s as well. Most of West Virginia was in the low to mid-70s. Look at the temperature contrast here. Look at this. There's their front right there. So 42 in New York City, 62 in Philly, 78 in DC, 30 in Boston, 30 in Albany. So, and then of course this is if you want to, pretty impressive temperature contrast there. Okay, now later on this weekend, the front comes through here on Friday. The high comes down this way into New England. This is now for Saturday afternoon. The front is right here. The GFS here on the 18Z run has a little bit of snow and ice in Northern Virginia, Maryland, Delaware. I think this is bullshit. I mean, it might be snow and rain mixed at 35 degrees. It's not going to do anything. Don't worry about it. So just want to point that out to you. Okay, so what happens next? Here's our next system. The next system is going to be February 27th. So this is our next system, February 27th, right? So the energy gets ejected. Again, the big trough here on the west coast does not want to leave. It gets ejected, right? And here it comes, develops at a significant low in the central lower plains, going to track up the Midwest over the top of the ridge. Now you have a big upper low here. So what's going to happen is this low is going to go to the Great Lakes and it's going to be forced to drop underneath this low. See that? This is called your 50-50 low. I've talked about this before. This is very good for East Coast snowstorms in a normal winter. This winter, of course, is so screwed up. It's not that great. But it is going to produce a significant snowstorm in northern New York State and New England when all is said and done. Now here's this. This is enlargement. Let me blow it up a little bit here so you can see what's going on. Here's the enlargement. Same thing. There's the main piece of energy, the short wave. See how it's negatively tilted, running northwest to southeast? So it rapidly intensifies. This is the 27th of February, right? And then again, it's going to go, and then when it reaches this point here, you see how the lines are coming down? It's going to drop southeast towards Cape Cod, and it's going to bomb out. Here's the European model. There's this enormous low. Let me see if I can blow this up a little bit, see how strong this thing gets. You had 974. Wow, that's a pretty big system. Now, this could produce a tornadic outbreak here, a severe weather outbreak in Oklahoma, eastern Kansas, Texas, Arkansas, Missouri. This is going to be a big deal here, right? And now it tracks up into the Great Lakes, and then I'm going to blow this map up so you can see it here. Okay, so this is now the evening of the 27th, Monday night. So the first low goes to Chicago into southern Michigan. You got a nice snowstorm again in Minnesota, Wisconsin, northern Michigan, and the triple points in Virginia. Okay, so warm air from south of the Pennsylvania border all the way on Monday and Tuesday. Again, southwest winds. And then you get the snow breaking out here. But here you have your cold high to the north. So what's going to happen is this low is going to die. This secondary is going to form here. It's going to move off the coast. Let me show you what I mean. You can see it on the upper air map. So you see what happens here? The low is forced to go underneath it. So here's your bit of a blocking in Greenland. There's your 50-50 low. So the low goes to Greenland. It's forced to drop down. This and down again. This and down again. And that's what. Now, meanwhile, the trough on the west coast, there's another system coming at us. So it's a very active pattern. But to show you what this looks like in the European in more detail, there it is. First low jumps to the coast of Virginia. This is now early Tuesday morning, well, late Monday night, Tuesday morning. Then it goes to the coast. The first low is dead, the second one's taking over, and you have a significant snowstorm in all of New England and much of New York State. North of New York City, I don't think New York City is going to see anything out of this, but it might. I don't think so. Just to get an idea of the snow maps, here's the European. You can see just close to New York City, significant snow here, 6 to 12 inches in all this area. Even higher amounts locally. In fact, if we blow it up in New England for the European, you can see really nice snow here. Syracuse and Binghamton gets several inches here. Rochester, huge snow there. Buffalo gets a nice dump. Albany, the hills outside of Albany will get, in the Catskills, Adirondacks, 15, 16 inches. The Berkshires, and then Boston gets pounded. Look at that, baby. 15 inches in Boston, 11 inches in northern Connecticut, 12 inches in Rhode Island, all the way down almost to New York City. So this is a big snowstorm, if this is correct. This is the biggest one they've had in a while. And they really could use it, the snow people up there, the snow removal people, they're dying. So maybe. Okay, now the GFS is doing the same sort of thing. Model agreement here is excellent. Here's the GFS, the 18Z run, see it? Valid Tuesday morning. The first low is dead. It's filling out. By dead, I mean it's weakening, and the new low is jumping to the coast. You see the really, really heavy snow, the dark blue here? Just New York State getting pounded outside of New York City. All of New England getting slammed except for Maine at this point. And then it jumps to the coast, and the snow continues. And when this low takes off like this, you just blow it up here. Let me show you. You're going to get easterly winds bringing in the cold air. You're going to get a tremendous amount of wraparound here. It would not surprise me if there are places in Massachusetts, eastern New Hampshire, southwest Maine, maybe northeast Connecticut, Rhode Island got 15, 16, 18 inches of snow out of this. This could be a big freaking deal for this, I guess, especially given this winter. And here's the GFS. Look at this. Same thing. Size of European. 17, 18 inches in Boston. Holy crap. Again, look at Albany. But the GFS doesn't handle the elevation that well here. So the mountains outside of Albany will get 15 inches. Maybe Albany will. I don't know. But if it stays cold enough, they could get 15 inches in Buffalo's, not so much Buffalo, but Syracuse, Messina, You can see all these places, Springfield getting slammed, Northeast Connecticut, Northern Rhode Island. So notice again, just misses New York City. Just too bad. And then Southeast Massachusetts. So that very nice. Now, let's take a look at the MJO here. Here's the MJO. Now, technically, it wasn't phase 8 on the 20th of February, but only did it for a day, then maybe 2 days, and then it jumped back into the neutral circle. There it is now. Going into phase 8 for 1 or 2 days, that's not going to change the pattern, folks. Yeah, technically reached phase 8. Whoop de freaking do. It doesn't change the pattern. It's got to be. It has to be out. It has to be out here to change the pattern. Remember, when it's close to the circle, it means it's weak. When it's out here by the edges, it means it's strong. Okay. So if we look at our models here, what's going on? All right. For the next 2 days here, we can see. Well, this will take us the next week, not really week 2, for the next week or so. For the next week, let's change that. And then you can see here, okay, the GFS, European models. So you see they both have it. Very good agreement here. Now this is the European and the European bias corrected. So this is the original, and and you can see these are a very good agreement. And when you have the bias corrected model matching the original model, that's a good sign. You want to see that as a forecaster. Yay. That gives you good forecaster confidence. So what happens is it goes in the neutral circle, okay, and then in early March it comes out, and then it goes March 7th or 8th into phase 8, and it's very strong. So if the pattern is going to flip, it's not going to be March 3rd or 4th. That's not going to happen. It's going to happen March 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. That's going to happen after the first week. We have to get through March 7th. Then it gets into phase 8 and maybe phase 1. We'll see what happens. Okay. And if we look at the other models, they're showing the same sort of thing. Here's the GFS extended. Okay. And then the GFS, excuse me, and the bias corrected. Same sort of thing. Again, in March. End of February, March 1, March 2, March 5, March 6, March 7. It's in phase 7, phase 7, phase 7. Coming out here. Now this one extended is the European extended. Okay. Now here again phase 7 in March. Then after March 6th or 7th, it goes into phase 8, and it lingers there for a long period of time. So that's when the pattern changes. If there's going to be any winter weather on the eastern United States outside of New England, this is when it's going to occur after March 7th or 8th, not before then. This, remember, phase 7 here, first week of March, phase 7, phase 7. Why is that important? Because this is phase 7. This sucks. Look at that huge ridge on the eastern United States. Okay? So if you're looking for something the first week of March on the East Coast, it's not happening. Not if that's correct. Not happening. Okay? Now, let me explain to you why that's important. Because the GFS today comes out with this system for March 2nd and 3rd, which comes out of the southwestern states. Here's their front. Okay, very intense, nice low developing, severe weather outbreak in the deep south, snow on the north edge of it, you can see that, and then it bombs out on the Carolina coast. This is bullshit. This is complete bullshit. No, 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 no. Why do I know it's no? March 4. March 4, what do we have? March 4, it is in phase 7, phase 7. And in phase 7, you do not get East Coast snowstorms, not with a gigantic ridge in the southeastern states. This is wrong. So this here is bullshit. Okay. Now the European does it differently. The European does this, and it takes the low up, bombs it out. Again, a severe weather outbreak in the deep south and Tennessee Valley, 974 millibars. Holy crap. And then it drives up towards Buffalo. Okay, and it drives the warm air all the way up to Maine. I mean, look at that. It's unbelievable. Okay, and then look at here. I mean, it's raining in Montreal on March 4th. Okay, so this is the European, and this is, this is the GFS. Let's go it again, right? GFS, European. GFS, March 4, European March 4. GFS, March 4, European March 4. Okay, go with the European. GFS is wrong. And on top of that, here's the GFS ensemble. It has very little support for this. Big storm here off the southeast North Carolina coast. Very little support for that. Okay, then we go beyond this, and what happens? Okay, here's March 5. Now the GFS, because it has that storm on the East Coast, has a trough here, okay, which allows the block to build in, and it's got a trough here. Okay, still has the big trough on the West Coast though, and the ridge here. The European, the same sort of thing, but notice the ridge here is a little stronger because it doesn't have this trough. Again, because the GFS has this, it has this. And the European, which has this solution, ends up with That solution, you have more of a ridge. See the difference? Okay, now we still have to get, now this is still better than it has been. The block is suppressing the ridge here. This ridge is being flattened, but it's not completely dead yet. What we're hoping for, if you like winter weather on the East Coast, the Mid-Atlantic, what you're hoping for is some piece of energy coming out here. Instead of going to Chicago or the Great Lakes, it goes right across Missouri, Kentucky to Virginia, and the cold air is coming south, and you get a snowstorm in the mid-Atlantic and the Ohio Valley. That's what you want to happen. This is a little better, but it's not ideal yet. Now, as we finally go out in time here, we can see, oops, okay, this is March 9th. Here's the GFS. Now, notice the trough is finally leaving the west coast and going into the Midwest a little bit. See how the ridge here is building inland? So this is a huge block here in Greenland. It's trying to move. The ridge is getting flatter. Okay, this is better. This is a better pattern, March 9th and 10th. And the European is showing the same sort of thing. Now, the trough is still on the west coast, and there's still more ridging here. But we do have the block. We do have an upper low in southeastern Canada. This would keep low pressure areas tracking much further to the south if we get something coming out of this monster trough. And look at these systems coming out on the west coast. We're always going to get energy for the next 3 weeks coming out of California. We're just going to get these bomb low pressure systems. So this has potential, but again, we have to get the pattern to shift a little more. Now again, and then we go to the extended. Here's the GFS extended, takes us to March 25. Look at this. So again, phase 7, then phase 8, okay, and the link's there for all the month. This is great news. If you're hoping for a miracle in March, this is what you want to see. And here's the CFS, same sort of thing. Look at this. Spends almost the whole month of March, from March 8th to March 20th in phase 8. That's what you want to see. That's what you want to see. This has got, and the reason for that is because this is phase 8. Okay, in March with neutral conditions, this is a snowstorm pattern. Huge trough on the East Coast, gigantic block in Greenland, Arctic air coming southward. That's what you want to see. This is phase 8 right there. See it? That's phase 8. That's what you want to see. So again, after March 7th, not beforehand. Do not be fooled by any of these systems coming up here. The system on March 3rd or 4th is a rainstorm. It is not a snowstorm for the Mid-Atlantic. The GFS solution is bullshit. Okay, that's the report. Hopefully you liked it. This is meteorologist DT from Weather Risk. I'll see you on the Twitter page and over on the Facebook.